Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Robert, and today we're going to continue down the CompTIA Pentest Plus path using the Tryhackme platform. So far, what I want to say about using this platform and studying for the Pentest Plus is that the planning and scoping room, I don't think hit the mark for me for what I'm going to need when it comes to the Pentest Plus certification. Just knowing CompTIA's exams, I think the information is still important, but I don't think that it helps get me to where I need to be come exam day with the domains that I have. Where I really see the value in this platform is going to be when I get to rooms like tools and code analysis, information gathering, and vulnerability scanning, attacks and exploits. Now, of course, as you can see, I did some of this a long time ago in the past. I'm not going to keep beating on this, but it was a long time ago and I wasn't studying for the certification then. So the difference today is that I need to really focus on this. At some point when I get to the tools and code analysis, I'll start taking notes and I'll share with you how I do that. And I think, again, that's where I'm going to need to really brush up on my skills to pass the exam. Anyway, I still want to go through and 100% complete this whole path, so we are going to pick back up in governance and regulation. Introduction. Cybersecurity is a rapidly evolving landscape wherein malicious actors relentlessly endeavor to exploit vulnerabilities in high-sensitive systems, often with the intent of causing severe damage, disruption, and stealing of sensitive corporate data. To combat this evolving threat, a comprehensive approach to information security governance and regulation is necessary. Such an approach requires establishing robust policies and guidelines and implementing rigorous monitoring and enforcement mechanisms to ensure compliance. By adopting a proactive and strategic stance towards cybersecurity, organizations can mitigate the risks posed by malicious actors and safeguard their sensitive systems against potentially catastrophic breaches. Learning objectives. Understanding the role and importance of governance and regulation in cybersecurity. Gain an understanding of relevant international laws, regulations, policies, standards, and guidelines. Understanding governance, risk management, and compliance, or GRC framework. Develop and raise own cybersecurity posture as per international standards, including ISO 2701, NIST 853, and many more. Prerequisite. A basic understanding of the following two rooms is suggested, however not mandatory. And so they list out the principles of security and web application security. If you are completely new to this, nothing wrong with going and doing those rooms. I've probably already done them myself. We are all set to start if you are already gone through the above rooms. Okay, so I forgot to reset the progress. And that has cleared all of the tasks. So this first question is a read check. We're going to go ahead, and that should actually give me my third streak. Amazing, you have hit a 3-day streak. We don't need to share that. Okay, so task 1 is done. We are now on to task 2. Why is it important? Important terminologies. Governance. Managing and directing an organization or system to achieve its objectives and ensure compliance with laws, regulations, and standards. Regulation. A rule or law enforced by a governing body to ensure compliance and protect against harm. Compliance. The state of adhering to laws, regulations, and standards that apply to an organization or system. Information security governance. Information security governance represents an organization's established structure, policies, methods, and guidelines designed to guarantee the privacy, reliability, and accessibility of its information assets. Given the escalating complexity of cyber threats, the significance of information security governance is continually growing. It is essential for risk management safeguarding confidential data from unauthorized intrusion and adhering to pertinent regulations. Information security governance falls under the purview of top-tier management and includes the following processes. Strategy. Developing and implementing a comprehensive information security strategy that aligns with the organization's overall business objectives. Policy and procedures. Preparing policies and procedures that govern the use and protection of information assets. Risk management. Conduct risk assessments to identify potential threats to the organization, information assets, and implement risk mitigation measures. Performance measurement. Establishing metrics, key performance indicators, or KPIs, to ensure the effectiveness of the information security governance program. Compliance. Ensuring compliance with relevant regulations and industry best practices. And then Tryhackme has put us a little chart here with triangles, strategy, policy, procedures, basically just kind of outlining what we went over. Information security regulation. Why is it important? Task 2. Important terminologies. Governance. Managing and directing an organization or system to achieve its objectives and ensure compliance with laws, regulations, and standards. Regulation. A rule or law enforced by a governing body to ensure compliance and protect against harm. Compliance. The state of adhering to laws, regulations, and standards that apply to an organization or system. Information security governance. Information security governance represents an organization's established structure, policies, methods, and guidelines designed to guarantee the privacy, reliability, and accessibility of its information assets. Given the escalating complexity of cyber threats, the significance of information security governance is continually growing. It is essential for risk management safeguarding confidential data for unauthorized intrusions and adhering to pertinent regulations. Information security governance falls under the purview of top-tier management and includes the following processes. Strategy. Developing and implementing a comprehensive information security strategy that aligns with the organization's overall business objectives. Policies and procedures. Preparing policies and procedures that govern the use and protection of information assets. Risk management. Conduct risk assessments to identify potential threats to the organization's information assets and implement risk mitigation measures. Performance measurement. Establishing metrics and key performance indicators, or KPIs, to measure the effectiveness of the information security governance program. Compliance. Ensuring compliance with relevant regulations and industry best practices. Information security regulation. Governance and regulation are closely linked in the information security paradigm, but have distinct meanings. Information security regulation refers to legal and regulatory frameworks that govern the use and protection of information assets. Regulations are designed to protect sensitive data from unauthorized access, theft, and misuse. Compliance with regulations is typically mandatory and enforced by government agencies or other regulatory bodies. Examples of information security regulations standards include the General Data Protection Regulation, or GDPR, Payment Card Industry Data Security Standards, or PCI-DSS, and Personal Information Protection and Electronic Document Act, PIPEDA, and many more. Key benefits. The following are benefits of implementing governance and regulation. More robust security posture. Implementing a comprehensive security governance program and complying with relevant regulations can help an organization reduce the risk of security breaches and protect sensitive information from unauthorized access, theft, and misuse. Increase stakeholder confidence. Effective security governance and regulation can enhance stakeholder trust by demonstrating that an organization takes cybersecurity seriously and has implemented measures to protect sensitive data. Regulatory compliance. Compliance with relevant regulations such as GDPR, HIPAA, and PCI-DSS can help an organization avoid legal, financial penalties, and reputational damage resulting from non-compliance. Better alignment with business objectives. Security governance frameworks can help organizations align their information security strategies with their overall business objectives and ensure that security measures are cost-effective and contribute to the organization's success. Information decision-making. Security governance programs can provide decision makers with the knowledge they need to make sophisticated decisions about information security risks and ensure that security measures are implemented where they are most needed. Competitive advantage. Effective security governance and compliance with relevant regulators can provide a competitive advantage by demonstrating an organization's commitment to protecting sensitive data and enhancing stakeholders' trust. Relevant laws and regulations. Specific laws and regulations operate the security governance and regulatory ecosystem. They provide a structured framework for establishing minimum compliance standards, promoting accountability and trust, and fostering innovative approaches to safeguarding critical systems and data. By offering clear and concise rules, they reduce ambiguity and provide a common language for organizations to measure their security posture and ensure regulatory compliance. Following is an overview of some relevant laws and regulations. So we have GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation, which is a data privacy and protection. And our description for that is GDPR is a regulation propagated by the European Union that sets strict requirements for how organizations handle and protect and secure the personal data of EU citizens and residents. Then we have Health Insurance, Portability, and Accountability Act, HIPAA. It's in the domain of healthcare. It's a US-based official law to maintain the sensitivity of health-related information of citizens. And then we have the Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard, PCI-DSS, which is from the financial domain. And that sets a technical and operational requirement to ensure the secure handling, storage, processing, and transmission of cardholder data by merchants, service providers, and other entities that handle payment cards. Finally, we have GLBA, which is in financial. Financial companies must be sensitive to their customers' non-public personal information, NPI, including implementing information security programs, providing privacy notices, and disclosing information sharing practices. So now we're down to our answer the questions below. A rule or law enforced by a governing body to ensure compliance and protect against harm is called, and this would be regulation. Throw that in, and we could hit the hint if we needed. Health Insurance Portability Accountability Act, HIPAA, targets which domain for data protection? And we can look right up, and that should be healthcare. All right, so we've concluded task 2. Moving on to task 3. Information security frameworks. The Information Security Framework provides a comprehensive set of documents for outlining the organization's approach to information security and governs how security is implemented, managed, and enforced within the organization. This mainly includes policies, a formal statement that outlines an organization's goals, principles, and guidelines for achieving specific objectives, standards, a document establishing specific requirements or specifications for a particular process, product, or service, guidelines, a document that provides recommendations and best practices, non-mandatory for achieving specific goals or objectives, procedures, Set of specific steps for undertaking a particular task or process. Baselines, a set of minimum security standards or requirements that an organization or system must meet. Developing governance documents. Here are some generalized steps used to develop policies, standards, and guidelines, etc. Identifying the scope and purpose, determining what the document will cover and why it is needed. For example, a password policy might be required to ensure robust and secure user passwords. In contrast, a baseline might be required to establish a minimum level of security for all systems. Research and review. Research relevant laws, regulations, industry standards, and best practices to ensure your document is comprehensive and up to date. Review existing policies, procedures, and other documents to avoid duplicating efforts or contradicting existing guidance. Draft the document. Develop an outline and start drafting the document, following best practices for writing clear and concise policies, procedures, standards, guidelines, and baselines. Ensure the document is specific, actionable, and aligns with the organization's goals and values. Review and approval. Have the document reviewed by stakeholders such as subject matter experts, legal and compliance teams, and senior management. Incorporate their feedback and ensure the document aligns with organizational goals and values. Obtain final approval from appropriate stakeholders. Implementation and communication. Communicate the document to all relevant employees and stakeholders and ensure they understand their roles and responsibilities in implementing it. Develop training and awareness programs to ensure the document is understood and followed. Review and update. Periodically review and update the document to ensure it remains relevant and practical. Monitor compliance and adjust the document based on feedback and change in the threat landscape or regulatory environment. Explanation through real-world scenarios. We will go through some real-world scenarios to fully understand the steps and develop these documents. So one of the first real-world scenarios here is preparing a password policy. Define password requirements, minimum length, complexity, and expiration. Define password usage guidelines. Specify how passwords should be used, such as requiring unique passwords for each account, prohibiting and sharing of passwords, and prohibiting default passwords. Define password storage and transmission guidelines, using encryption for password storage and requiring secure connections for password transmissions. I don't know why, but requiring just keeps tripping me up. Define password changes and reset guidelines, how often passwords should be changed, etc. Communicate the policy. Communicate the password policy to all relevant employees and stakeholders and ensure that they understand the requirements and guidelines. Develop training and awareness programs to ensure that employees follow the policy. Monitor compliance. Monitor compliance with the password policy and adjust the policy as needed based on feedback and change it in the threat landscape or regulatory environment. And then our next real-world scenario is making an incident response procedure. Define incident types, unauthorized access, malware infection, or data breaches. Define incident response roles and responsibilities. Identify the stakeholders, such as incident response team members, IT personnel, legal and compliance teams, and senior management. Detailed steps. Develop detailed step-by-step procedures for responding to each type of incident, including initial response steps such as containing the incident and preserving evidence, analysis and investigation steps, such as identifying the root cause and assessing the impact, response and recovery steps, such as mitigate the incident, reporting and restoring normal operations. Report the incident to management and document the incident response process for future references. Communicate the incident response procedures, and review and update the incident response procedures. Organizations only sometimes need to make a standard, framework, or baseline instead. Instead, they follow and use already made documents related to their field or discipline, as the financial sector may allow PCI-DSS and GLBA, healthcare may follow HIPAA, etc. There are numerous factors upon which we decide which standard framework or baseline checklist should be used. These include regulatory requirements, primarily related to the particular geographical area, scope, objectives, available resources, and many more. Answer the questions below. The step that involves monitoring compliance and adjust the document based on feedback and change in the threat landscape or regulatory environment is called maybe review and approval. The step that involves monitoring compliance. Review and update. Periodically review. I believe it's review and update. Okay. A set of specific steps for undertaking a particular task or process is called read that again. A set of specific steps for undertaking a specific task or process. A procedure is a set of specific steps for undertaking a particular task or process. Okay, and we have completed task 3. We are now on to task 4. Governance, Risk, and Compliance, GRC. As we have studied, information security, governance, and compliance are necessary to maintain any organization's overall security posture. But how to achieve it? Here comes the role of the Governance and Risk Compliance GRC framework. It focuses on steering the organization's overall governance, enterprise risk management, and compliance in an integrated manner. It is a holistic approach to information security that aligns with the organization's goals and objectives and helps to ensure that the organization operates within the boundaries of relevant regulations and industry standards. GRC framework has the following 3 components. Governance component involves guiding an organization by setting its directions through information security strategy, which includes policies, standards, baselines, frameworks, etc., along with establishing appropriate monitoring methods to measure its performance and assess the outcomes. Risk management component involving identifying, assessing, and prioritizing risks to the organization and implementing controls and mitigation strategies to manage those risks effectively. This includes monitoring and reporting on risks and continuously evaluating and refining the risk management program to ensure its ongoing effectiveness. Compliance component. Ensuring that the organization meets its legal, regulatory, and industry obligations and that its activities align with its policies and procedures. This includes developing and implementing compliance programs, conducting regulatory audits and assessments, and reporting on compliance issues to stakeholders. How to develop GRC program generic guidelines. A well-developed and implemented GRC program for cybersecurity provides an integrated framework for managed risk, complying with regulations and standards, and improving the overall security perspective of an organization. It enables effective governance, risk management, and compliance activities, mitigating cyber incidents' impact and ensuring business resilience. In this section, we will explore how to develop and implement a GRC framework. Developing and implementing a GRC framework involves various steps. We will explain each step with an appropriate example so that we can easily understand. Define the scope and objectives. This step involves determining the scope of the GRC program and defines the goals and defining its goals. For example, a company can implement a GRC program to its customer data management system. The objective might be to reduce cyber risk by 50% in the next 12 months with maintaining the trust of its customers. Conduct a risk assessment. In this step, the organization identifies and assesses its cyber risk. For example, a risk assessment might reveal that customer data management system is vulnerable to an external attack due to a weak access control or outdated software. The organization can then prioritize these risks and develop a risk management strategy. Develop policies and procedures. Policies and procedures are developed to guide the cybersecurity practice within the organization. For example, the company might establish a password policy to ensure the usage of strong passwords. They might also implement logging and monitoring system access procedures to detect suspicious activity. Establish governance processes. Governance processes ensure the GRC program is effectively managed and controlled. For example, the organization might establish a security steering committee that meets regularly to review security risks and make decisions about security investments and priorities. Roles and responsibilities are defined to ensure everyone understands their role in the program. Implement controls. Technical and non-technical controls are implemented to mitigate risks identified in risk assessments. For example, the company might implement firewalls, intrusion prevention systems or IPSs, intrusion detection systems or IDSs, and security information and event management or SIEM to prevent external attacks and impart employee training to improve security awareness and reduce the risk of human error. Monitor and measure performance. Processes are established to monitor and measure the effectiveness of the GRC program. For example, the organization can track metrics and compliance with security policies. The information is used to identify areas for improvement and adjust the program as needed. Continuously improve. The GRC program is constantly reviewed and improved based on performance metrics, changing risk profiles, and stakeholder feedback. For example, suppose the organization experiences a security incident. In that case, it might conduct a post-incident analysis to identify the root cause and make changes to prevent a similar incident from happening again. An example GRC framework in the financial sector. To fully understand each component of GRC, it is important to understand it with a real-world example and scenario. In the ensuing section, we will see how the financial industry implements each component of the GRC framework. Governance-related activities. Nominate the governance-level executives and make financial-related policies such as the Bank Secrecy Act, anti-money laundering policy, financial audit policies, financial reporting, crisis management, and many more. Risk management activities. Identify potential risks, their possible outcomes, and countermeasures such as financial fraud risks, fraudulent transactions through cyber attacks, stolen credentials through phishing, fake ATM cards, etc. Compliance activities. Take measures to meet legal requirements and industry standards such as PCI-DSS, GLBA, etc. Moreover, this also includes implementing correct methods like SSL, TLS to avoid man-in-the-middle attacks, or MITM, ensuring automatic patch management against unpatched software, creating awareness campaigns for users to protect from phishing attacks, and many more. Answer the questions below. What is the component in the GRC framework involved in identifying, assessing, and prioritizing risks to the organization? Risk management component involves identifying, assessing, and prioritizing risks to the organization and implementing controls to mitigate the strategies. So I believe that is going to be risk management. It is important to monitor and measure the performance of a developed policy, yay or nay. And we know it spoke about KPIs, so that might have been in a different section. If we just look up performance, we can see, along with establishing appropriate monitoring methods to measure its performance and assess the outcomes. So that is going to be a yeah. And we have finished task 4. We are on now to task 5. Privacy and data protection. In every sector, such as financial, healthcare, government, and industry, privacy and data protection regulations are critical as they deal with citizens' personally identifiable information, or PII. Privacy regulations help ensure individuals' personal information is handled and stored responsibly and ethically. They also help to establish trust, protect personal information, and maintain regulatory compliance. Moving forward, we will go through essential cardinals of the most important privacy and data protection regulations and their purpose, which will help us to understand why data protection regulations are crucial. General Data Protection Regulation, or GDPR. The GDPR is data protection law implemented in the EU in May 2018 to protect personal data. Personal data is any data associated with an individual that can be utilized to identify them either directly or indirectly. Key points of the law include the following. Prior approval must be obtained before collecting any personal data. Personal data should be kept to a minimum and only collected when necessary. Adequate measures are to be adopted to protect stored personal data. And then you can see the little GDPR image here from Tryhackme. The law applies to all business entities that conduct business in the European Union, EU, and collect, store, process the personal data of EU residents and are required to comply. It is one of those stringent data privacy regulations worldwide and safeguards personal data during collection. Companies can only collect data for a legitimate reason and must inform the owner about its processing. Moreover, this also includes penalties and fines based on non-compliance in the following 2 tiers. Tier 1, more severe violations, including unintended data collection, sharing data with third parties without consent, etc. Maximum penalties amounting to 4% of the organization's revenue or 20 million euros, whichever is higher. Tier 2, less severe violations, including data breach notifications, cyber policies, etc. The maximum fine for Tier 2 is 2% of the organization's revenue or 10 million euros, whichever is higher. Payment card industry data security standard, PCI-DSS, is focused on maintaining secure card transactions and protecting against data theft and fraud. It is widely used by business, primarily online, for card-based transactions. It was established by the major credit card brands, Visa, MasterCard, and American Express. It requires strict control, access to cardholder information, and monitoring unauthorized access, using recommended measures such as web application firewalls and encryption. You can learn more about the standard here, and they give a little link to something that's probably going to give us some more information that I'm not going to open yet. Answer the questions below. What is the maximum time for Tier 1? What is the maximum fine for the Tier 1 users as per GDPR in terms of percentage? Oh, Tier 1 was right here. 4%. And Doesn't look like it wants anything more than the 4, the digit. In terms of PCI-DSS, no, I probably should have highlighted where it was for other people, right there. In terms of PCI-DSS, what does CHD stand for? CHD. Doesn't look like that comes right up. So we probably do need to open the document. I don't think we need to do that. And we're probably, document has been archived. So we'll download it. And CHD. Cardholder data. Okay, so it looks like it means cardholder data. I wonder if they know that it's been archived. And we have completed task 5. We are now on to task 6 of 8. NIST Special Publications. NIST 853 is a publication titled Security and Privacy Control for Information System and Organizations, developed by the National Institute of Standards and Technologies, NIST, US, that provides a catalog of security controls to protect the CIA triad of information systems. The publication serves as a framework for organizations to assess and enhance the security and privacy of their information systems and comply with various laws, regulations, and policies. It incorporates best practices from multiple sources, including industry standards, guidelines, and international frameworks. Key points. NIST 853 offers a comprehensive set of security and privacy controls that organizations can use to safeguard their organizational assets, personnel, and other organizations from various threats and risks. These include intentional attacks, unintentional errors, natural disasters, infrastructure failures, foreign intelligence activities, and privacy concerns. NIST 853 Revision 5 organizes security controls into 20 families, each addressing a specific security concern category. You can learn more about the controls here or section 2.2. And then it lays out the NIST control families for us, the 20 control families from revision 5. Developing and implementing NIST 853 based information security program. Among all the families, program management is one of the crucial controls of the NIST 853 framework. Program management control mandates establishing, implementing, and monitoring organization-wide programs for information security and privacy while safeguarding the processed, stored, or transmitted through systems. To ensure program management, the following subcontrols are necessary to be implemented. Then we have program management controls. We can see those here. Compliance best practices. First and foremost, business. I'm going to go ahead and just scroll up so you can look at those controls while I read. Compliance best practices. First and foremost, business must conduct a thorough discovery process to recognize and catalog their data assets, information systems, and associated threats. This includes understanding data flaws, system dependencies, and potential vulnerabilities. The NIST 853 control families must be mapped to the identified assets and hazards, creating a structured approach for matching the controls to the organization's demands easier. Thirdly, creating a governance structure, allocating duties, and outlining precise controls, implementation, and maintenance procedures are all necessary to effectively manage the implementation process. All measures must be regularly monitored and evaluated to ensure compliance. Finally, organizations should establish effective monitoring systems to identify and address security issues, conduct routine evaluations and audits, and improve control implementation. By adhering to these best practices, organizations can successfully implement NIST 853 and enhance their security outlook while mitigating risks effectively. And we have the best practices here. NIST 863B. NIST Special Publication 863B is a set of guidelines created by the NIST to help organizations establish effective digital identity practices. Its primary focus is on authenticating and verifying the identities of individuals who access digital services, systems, and networks. The guidelines provide recommendations for different levels of identity assurance, ranging from basic to high assurance. They also offer advice on using authentication factors, including passwords, biometrics, and tokens, and security managing and storing user credentials. I really struggled through that last paragraph. I think I'm getting tired. Answer the questions below. Per NIST 853, in which control category does the media protection lie? And I don't know that it explicitly tells us in here, but we can see it's probably right there, physical PE. Or it looks like it wants us to spell it out. And there was a hint. What's the hint say? Administrative, technical, physical, and strategic controls. My dog's up, so you might hear a little shaking, maybe even a bark. Per NIST 853, which control category does the incident response lie? And looking back, incident response is under an administrative control. Which phase name of NIST 853 compliance best practices results in correlating identified assets and permissions? Data and permissions is under map. So let's go ahead and throw that in. And that's going to conclude task 6. We are now on to task 7 of 8. Information security management and compliance. The strategic planning, execution, and continuous administration of security measures are all part of information security IS management, which protects information assets from unauthorized access, use, disclosure, interruption, alteration, and destruction. It involves risk assessment and identification, security controls and procedures development, incident response planning, and security awareness training. Contrarily, compliance refers to observing information security related legal, regulatory, contractual, and industry-specific standards. In IS management and compliance, we will go through 2 key standards. ISO IEC 27701 is an internationally recognized standard for requirements to plan, develop, run, and update an organization's information security management system, ISMS. The official 2701 document are paid for and can be purchased from this link. It was developed by International Organization for Standard ISO and the International Electronical Commission, IEC, and has the following core components. Scope. This specifies the ISMS's boundaries, including the covered asset and processes. Information security policy, a high-level document defining an organization's information security approach. Risk assessment involves identifying and evaluating the risks to the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of the organization's information. Risk treatment involves selecting and implementing controls to reduce the identified risks at an acceptable level. Statement of applicability, SOA. This document specifies which controls from the standards are applied or applicable and which are not. Internal audit. This involves conducting periodic audits of the ISMS to ensure that it is operating effectively. And management review. Review the performance of the ISMS at a regular interval. And then we've got the benefits here. An ISMS built on the ISO 27701 standard requires careful design and execution. It entails exhaustively evaluating the organization's security procedures, detecting gaps, and conducting a thorough risk assessment. Access controls, incident response, etc. are just a few examples of the areas where clear rules and procedures must be created and aligned with the ISO 2001 requirements. Leadership support and resource allocation are also essential for the ISMS to be implemented successfully. Regular monitoring, measurement, and continual development are crucial to guarantee the efficacy and continued alignment of the ISMS within the organization's objectives. Service Organization Control 2, SOC 2. SOC 2 was developed by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, AICPA, as a compliance audit framework. Focuses on assessing the efficacy of a company's data security based on the CIA triad. SOC 2 can reassure customers, stakeholders, and business partners that the company has put sufficient controls in place to safeguard its systems, data, and sensitive information. The SOC 2 framework is essential for service providers interacting with client data or offering solutions that process, store, or transmit sensitive data. It assists business in demonstrating their dedication to upholding strict privacy and security standards. Customers frequently ask for SOC 2 reports or use them as a competitive advantage to guarantee clients that their information will be handled securely. You can learn more about that here, and there's a link to it. Important cardinals. SOC 2 is an auditing standard that evaluates the usefulness of a service organization's controls related to confidentiality, availability, integrity, and privacy. Independent auditors conduct SOC 2 audits to determine that security controls meet the relevant criteria. SOC 2 reports provide valuable information to customers, stakeholders, and regulators on a service organization's security and privacy practices. They can be used to demonstrate that the service organization has adequate controls to protect data and systems it uses to process customers' information. For example, a cloud computing company that provides infrastructure services to other businesses may undergo a SOC 2 audit to demonstrate its adequate controls to protect customer data is stored on its servers. Customer data stored on its servers. The audit may cover physical security, network security, data encryption, backup and recovery, and employee training and awareness. The SOC 2 audit report will assess the controls in place at the cloud computing company and include any findings or recommendations for improvement. Information can be shared with customers and other stakeholders to ensure the company takes appropriate measures to protect its data and systems. What information security protection SOC 2 provides? The primary purpose of SOC 2 audits are to ensure that third-party service providers store and process sensitive information securely. Planning and undergoing a SOC 2 audit. The following steps can be taken by an organization management team before and during an audit. Determine the scope. This may include specific systems, processes, or locations that are relevant to the security and privacy of customer data. Choose a suitable auditor. Select a qualified auditor with experience conducting SOC 2 audits for financial companies. Consider factors such as the auditor's reputation, experience, and availability. Plan the audit. Work with the auditor to plan the audit. Include the audit timeline, the scope of the audit, and the audit criteria. Prepare for the audit. Prepare for the audit by reviewing your security and privacy controls, policies, and procedures, identify any gaps or deficiencies, and develop a plan to address them. Conduct the audit. The auditor will review your controls and conduct testing to assess their effectiveness. The audit may include interviews with key personnel, documentation reviews, and control tests. Receive the audit report. Once the audit is complete, the auditor will provide a report detailing audit results. The report may include a description of your controls, any deficiencies or gaps identified, and recommendations for improvement. And here we have a little SOC 2 infographic. The above diagram shows the generic controls that will be checked during a SOC 2 audit for a financial company depending on the scope of the audit. Other than that, there are technical and specific controls like ensuring data encryption in transit, network security, incident management, etc. Answer the questions below. Which ISO IEC 2007-1 component involves selecting and implementing controls to reduce the identified risk to an acceptable level? ISO 2007-1. Risk treatment involves selecting and implementing controls to reduce the identified controls to an acceptable level. Let's grab that. I'll just use Control C. I still have my search up. Probably don't need it. Might need it though. Don't know. Throw that in. And that is correct. In SOC 2, generic controls, which controls show that the system remains available? Where are our SOC 2 controls? Which controls the system remains available? I guess we will need to that's not going to be right. SOC 2 is an auditing standard that evaluates the usefulness of service organization controls. Oh. That makes it easy. It's availability. All right. And task 8, our conclusion. This room has provided a comprehensive overview of the importance of developing an effective information security governance and regulation framework to protect an organization's valuable assets and sensitive information. We have learned about various laws and regulations governing privacy and data protection, such as GDPR and PCI-DSS. This room has also introduced the governance, risk management, and compliance GRC framework concepts and explained how to develop an effective GRC program through real-world exercises. Furthermore, the room has highlighted different governance enablers such as ISO 2701, NIST 853, and NIST Special Publications 863B, and explained how they provide information security protections to an organization. Due to the ongoing emergence of new threats and vulnerabilities, information security is a relative concept. While achieving 100% security is unrealistic, a proactive organization understands the need to continuously implement robust security policies to mitigate risks and safeguard sensitive data. Stay tuned for more exciting rooms on governing and regulating an organization's security through policies. Answer the question below, click on the View Site. So it looks like we need to view site and grab a flag. Instructions. I've got to know that you have great aim. Please select the security control missile from the right. So I'm going to go ahead and skip the tour. And it looks like we have a timer, phishing emails. So what missile do we want to use for phishing emails? We're going to use user awareness. Which of the following is a valid NIST publication dealing with security and privacy controls for information systems and organizations? NIST 853, Unpatched software. We're going to use automatic patch management. Which of the following frameworks primarily assist in information security management and compliance? Framework, so GDPR is a regulation, SOC 2. Man in the middle, we're going to use SSL TLS to take that out. Data leak EU, GDPR. And unregulated, non-compliant, SOC 2. And that gives us our flag, which is easy to copy. We will throw that in. And we have completed this room. Now we need to go through there, continue. So we have a 3-day strong momentum. And it looks like we will start the next video with Metasploit introduction. So again, I feel like the rooms, I think it's good information just knowing how CompTIA Pentest Plus, knowing how CompTIA does their tests, because I haven't taken the Pentest Plus yet, but I find it difficult to see how these rooms are going to stack up to me taking the test. But definitely as we move on through tools and code analysis and iterate through these other rooms, I think they're going to become a lot more valuable. Anyway, we can close this for now. And that close my search. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching.